For the longest time, I've said, the legal industry doesn't actually know what industry they're in. They're in the hospitality industry. They just don't want to admit it. If you're the smartest person in every room, but you treat people horribly, it doesn't matter that you can produce a good product. It matters, how you're coming across to clients and potential clients and what it is that you're able to do. And also, the standard that you set and expectations that you set for them.
Hey, my name is Ashley. I want to thank you for watching today's video. I am the CEO and founder of Green Cardi Marketing. At Green Cardi Marketing, we work with law firms who are looking to grow and scale their law firm. And that's exactly what this conversation is today. Today, we are talking to Chris Wise from Wise & Associates. Wise & Associates is a family law firm with currently three locations. Chris started the family law firm 4 years ago at the beginning of COVID, and he's grown it this much in 4 years or less than 4 years. So you can see why I wanted to talk to Chris. I wanted to talk to Chris for you, for those who are looking to grow or scale their law firm, not just family lawyers. So if that's you, I think you're going to find today's conversation interesting. That Chris is focusing his time and attention on being a business person who is outsourcing and continuing to track and audit his time to know that he is spending his time doing the most valuable things to grow and scale his firm. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Chris Wise. Chris, how are you? Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to talk to you. I know that the conversations that we've had, when we first met on a networking group, we've just talked all about your extremely successful family law firm. So this conversation today, I know, is going to be impactful for the family lawyers that we have as clients and just family lawyers in general who are looking to grow and scale their law firm to what you've done. So I just want to pick your brain and put myself in the mind of the other family lawyers out there who are looking to grow and scale. So let's start there. Tell us about your family law firm. Kind of give us the highs of who you are, what you do, where you're at.
Yeah, so started in 2020, May of 2020, really as a really small firm. During 2020, obviously, there was a lot of complications with starting anything at the time. So convinced a owner of a commercial building to rent out their broom closet. Really did. It was an actual broom closet. It's a true story. And had to cut a desk in half to fit it. And that and a chair was all that could fit in there. And then we got the conference room for free. And that was the big win. And so started that in 2020. From there, scaled. We do flat fees. So the way we fee is a little different in the sense of traditional law firms being the hourly and retainer model that we're all used to or accustomed to. Went from there, scaled, and by 2022, we have offices in Cincinnati, Louisville, and Nashville.
Wow. So to date, in 2024, we're here at the end of the year. Yeah. You have 4 offices, is that right?
We have 3 offices. We have contractor. How we build out offices typically is we contract with someone, make sure that the market is right, make sure that what we're doing, we're allowed to do and how it all makes sense. And then as we build that out, we build the office kind of around that individual. Okay.
So to date, what does your team look like? Team size? You've given us the location. What does your team look like?
Yeah, we are 9 people total. I got to make sure I don't mess up the number. With 4 attorneys and the rest staff. So, sometimes I get the numbers confused. I also have the sales agency, and sometimes it overlaps in my brain.
Yeah. And I want to get to that. I know you got your hands in a lot of different pots here. Like I think a lot of business owners, I run a marketing agency, but also do other things. Many of our clients do as well. So in 4 years, you have really grown and scaled this thing from a half of a desk in a broom closet. What's been top 3 greatest attributes to that growth, whether it's bottom line, gross line revenue growth, your average client value, best lawyers? What would you say are maybe 3 things that you've done really well that has helped propel that growth pretty quickly over 4 years?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, it's definitely managing expenses and making sure, you put the money towards, what is most needed, right? Typically, it's buying back time. And so, what is that first thing that you can get that's going to allow you to have more time to operate? I don't typically, and still to this day, I don't take cases anymore. I have attorneys that do that. But to get to that point, you have to grow into it. So you have to find, where am I spending my most time, and is it the most productive for me for a top line revenue standpoint, and then replace yourself and constantly do this loop where you're checking yourself on what is it that you're spending your time on. Does it have to be you? Taking kind of that ego check and making sure, does it really have to be you, or do you just want it to be you? And then I would say from checking expenses and making sure that you're putting it towards what matters most, the next thing would be marketing and sales. That's kind of 2 and 3. But, I was fortunate in the sense of I was able to manage expenses really, really well, which gave me the opportunity to try new things in marketing. I'm in family law. All we do is family law. We don't do anything else. And so, that opened up a good referral base, which is a lot of attorneys are familiar with. You kind of stay in your lane and you're able to work together because they know you're not going to take business from them potentially, and vice versa. But it also gave me the opportunity to try things that the business sector was doing, but not so much the legal sector. So this was, looking into programmatic advertising. Does that make sense? Is that something that we can actually do? To social media. And I think you see this a lot with personal injury attorneys. I think that's every commercial you can think of typically is a personal injury attorney. And looking at it and trying to figure out the numbers of why they're doing that. And does that make sense? And so I really have tried about everything between TV, social, radio, streaming, podcasts. The list goes on and on and on. And so, marketing and sales. And then if I have to throw in a third one, I'm going to say efficiency, which is, let's look at how do we, just because the phone rings 200 times in a week, if you don't have anyone to answer that, it's just lost opportunity. And so from an efficiency standpoint, how do we become efficient in capturing those leads and, qualifying them and moving forward? So, the best marketing in the world is not going to help you, grow your firm if you don't have the ability to take on that additional, I call them touch points, but additional, emails, texts, phone calls, however you're getting business. And so developing those systems to ensure that you can actually handle that is, definitely top 3.
And it increases your profitability. The more efficient you become. And those are great answers. Thank you for sharing that. I think 1 and 3 really tie in together.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time? Is that kind of the analogy you were talking about there?
Yeah, oddly enough, Dan is my mentor and business coach. So yes, I'm very familiar with Dan.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, we need to talk after this. I have this on the wall. Is it the picture from Dan's book? I've read it probably 3 times.
Oh, okay.
It's such a great book for those who are watching this and you have not read it. The amount of times I've recommended it to clients, I've paid for it and sent it to clients. Because if my team, the same as you, I am auditing my time and replacing myself. So I'm not in many client interactions anymore. And I'm currently getting myself out of the sales side too, because where I am best spent is managing my firm, managing my team, developing strategic relationships, all those things, right? And lawyers are no different. So the times I have said to a lawyer stop marketing, go be a lawyer. If you don't want to be a lawyer, go manage your firm. What are you doing looking at your Google Analytics? We've got this. Hire a marketing person. Let us talk to your marketing person. So buying back your time and always upscaling your time and looking at it and putting a real dollar on your time. That's such valuable information for folks. And then like the last piece of you talking about of looking at, if you don't know your numbers and your KPIs, how do you know what's profitable?
Right.
And would you say when you first started, were you only doing divorce, or did you have a broader scope? And then the more you've looked at your time and profitability, the tighter your niche has gotten?
No, I went right in. I not only did I niche down, I narrowed it so much. I only stayed in one county. I didn't come from a law firm background. I didn't work at a law firm for X amount of time and then open my firm or practice or whatever. I went straight into it. And so for me, it was, all right, in the middle of a pandemic as well, how do you niche into an area that I was passionate about, but then also how do you ensure that you know what you're doing and talking about? And so I grabbed the county. What it did is it allowed me to hyper focus in one specific area, and it was in Louisville, Jefferson County. So I was able to say, okay, let me become an expert on family court in Jefferson County, and let me do everything, all the hours, all the time. I would go, at the time it was virtual, but I would go into court, even without any cases, just to listen and learn and see, how are things getting done. And so it was a lot of that, a lot of reps that weren't, profitable in the sense of, it's not like I was getting paid to go there to learn. But just you couldn't get a better education than doing that kind of stuff. And I think that's something when you get started and you're new, that you have to do in any area of law. It doesn't matter, but you have to find a way to get involved outside of networking, but actually in whatever it is that you're doing. From that experience, you're able to talk about how things are actually done versus what it looks like on paper. Because I think all of us know that doesn't quite work the same way.
Right. Man, what I'm hearing, Chris, from you is just how much you've invested into being a business owner, which, it's kind of outplayed at this point, but it's true that law school didn't teach you how to run a business. We all know that, and we all talk about that in this industry, but it seems like you've really leaned into that. Looking at a business, there are three quadrants of the operation side of things, the customer service, customer relationship side, and then the actual product. You really can put most any businesses into that three quadrant box. Where do you spend most of your time? Operations, customer relationship, or the product, the actual being a lawyer? Where would you say you spend most of your time?
I call it hospitality, but customer relations. That is everything. I think we all know of the jokes and stigma that attorneys have when it comes to that. And so, how do you fix that? How do you replace it? For the longest time, I've said, the legal industry doesn't actually know what industry they're in. They're in the hospitality industry. They just don't want to admit it. If you're the smartest person in every room, but you treat people horribly, it doesn't matter that you can produce a good product. It matters, how you're coming across to clients and potential clients, and what it is that you're able to do, and also, the standard that you set and expectations that you set for them. So I spend a vast majority of my time on what is our actual, I call it hospitality rating. What is our actual hospitality rating? Do we actually do what we promote? And if not, how do we fix it? How do we improve? You can always improve. We're never going to be at the top of the mountain. Life doesn't work that way. And things get dropped, life happens. So, it's managing that and figuring out just how can you improve consistently and try to maintain at least that baseline standard that you set. From an operations standpoint, I have individuals that help me in operations in the firm. And so, yes, I do. That's probably the second. But as far as the actual work, the attorney work, that's by far the least amount that I actually do at this point.
So how do you make them feel is where you spend the majority of your time. How do they feel when they first engage with your firm? How do they feel in the middle of their case? How do they feel afterwards? it's such an emotional based practice area.
Yeah.
We talk about this with our family law firms all the time too, and how you engage with them, how you respond to them, how you answer the phone. What is your intake process like? How are you responding to reviews? Are you responding to reviews? Are you answering the phone? This is the most difficult time in their life, and you are engaging with them in such a vulnerable time. So it's probably the root of your success is because you focus your time there and not get so hyper focused on the product. You know the product's good. You've paid for good people. Now you spend the majority of your time on the customer relationship side. What is next for the firm? What are your next maybe 3 to 5 year goals that you have for your law firm?
Yeah, we'll expand into a few more states. I think by 5 years, I'd like to be somewhere around 10 states. Personally, in the family law world, I think it makes the most sense to sit around that 10 state mark. And that has to do with, I don't think there's divorces in Utah. So I don't really need 50 states if that's not happening. So we do a lot of market research on whether or not it makes sense to open an office there. How long would it take to be profitable following our systems? And then just it's execution at that point, just following through the steps and believing in the system. So 5 years, like to see us around 10 states. And then, who knows, that'll probably change 2 years from now. It's tough. I like to look out 10, 15 years because those are the wild dreams, right? I feel like every time I set 1 year goals, those tend to get accomplished quicker than the 1 year. And then I feel like I undercut myself.
Right. Yeah. And like I said at the beginning of this, if you guys are watching this, you should go follow Chris on LinkedIn. He's got his hands in a lot of different things. You're in real estate. You've got the law firm investment company as well, or the sales company as well. Is that right?
Yeah, the sales firm, the property management company, and then the law firm. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of a busy guy.
Yeah.
kind of got a lot going on. Well, Chris, thank you for your time. I want to leave anybody who's watching this as a family lawyer saying, I don't know where to begin. I'm overwhelmed. I can't get out of the grind. I just spend all my time working in the business versus on the business. What's one thing that they can do today to change that? I
would audit your time, honestly. I think a lot of times we hear people say, I'm so swamped, I'm overworked, and they go on. And then when you sit back and you look at personal standards and time, you find that you're spending a lot of time on things that aren't necessary. Or you find that you're not really spending as much time as you think. I do this with some of my attorneys in the office is every now and then I'll say, hey, for the next 2 weeks, track your time. I want to know what you're spending time on. And what you'll find is, or what I have found is sometimes they're spending an enormous amount of time on emails, and those emails aren't productive. They're not emails that are driving a case forward or getting us to the outcome that is desired. Instead, it's just, it takes me 25 minutes to kind of go through this, another 30 to go through that. And then by the time I start replying, like I'm kind of burnt out from already spending the hour and a half on it. And it's like, okay, there's a base answer that we can give certain responses, and how do we automate it? But how do we also set up the systems in place to get that time back? And then if you're going to do it after you audit yourself, which is really the answer, figure out what you could spend that time on. I know a lot of individuals who work from, 10 a.m. to 2. And it's like, okay, that if that's what you've decided, that's fine. However, you have to realize that you're competing with people who are starting at 4 in the morning and working until 10 at night. And so they're able to accomplish a lot more just by basic math. And so how do you fill that void? And so you either become insanely efficient and you're able to do that, which is fine, or you understand where it is that you're going and you're comfortable with that. But auditing yourself, auditing your time, and I take it all the way back. I mean, I go from when you get up, what do you do, to, all right, when you typically go to sleep, and track all of that. If it's personal, put personal, but know internally what it is. And if you're doing it to yourself, then you're auditing yourself, then, you writing it down and checking yourself. No one's looking over your shoulder. So, be honest with yourself, because that's what's going to get you to the next spot is, okay, maybe, 4 hours playing video games is not as productive as I think that I'm being. But it's when you actually write it down. You can't just mentally audit yourself. You got to write it down. When you actually write it down, that's when the kind of truth is in the pudding. It comes out and you're like, okay, got it.
Yeah. I have a business coach who's the one who turned me on to Dan Martell, and he says to audit your time every month, and whatever you're spending consistently 15 hours a week on, hire it out. It's not how, but who, right? It's not how can I do that job? It's who can I give that to? So I try to stick to that practice of every month, because we track our time here, very similar to law firms. We're tracking our time. And so I'm tracking my time. I'm doing the same thing. So what am I spending 15 hours this month in October? What have I consistently spent 15 hours on? Okay, I've got to give it away. Is it AI? Can automation handle that? Is it another person on my team? Can I outsource it? No, just take it off completely. And that's been a game changer for me too, of making it really practical and every month looking at it. And it's amazing what you can look back after doing that 12 times, doing that in a year, how much more productive you are. And then my time is spent really adding to the bottom line of our agency versus these petty tasks that are not doing much. Like you said, it's just kind of monotonous. Am I caught in the weeds? I think when we first met, you said that someone is even in your inbox, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're not even managing your inbox.
No, I don't manage my email, my schedule. All of that is my EA. I'll tell you, I take it a step further. I record myself because I find that mentally I lie to myself. I'm like, oh yeah, I worked on that for like 35 minutes. And then I literally will go back and be like, I worked on that for like an hour and a half. Like that, I definitely lied.
Yeah.
And it's, another example of this is, I used to complain about, training. Well, I don't want to hand that off because it's going to take me like 2 hours to teach that person. And then they're going to have a ton of questions. And then, really there goes, a 60-hour, work week and a month if I look at it on just training on these tasks that I could just do in 15 minutes. And what I found is that's when the recording idea started. And I was like, you know what? I can just record it, save it on a Loom and be like, hey, this is how it's done. And if it doesn't make sense, let me know, because I just recorded myself doing it. And it, it's not pretty, but it is how I do it.
Yeah, I was just about to ask what platform. We use Loom too. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's another great tidbit for folks. We have a training portal that I created for our team of any questions that they have. And so I'm constantly, it's first to start off with me making Loom videos. How do you do this? How do you do this? And now it's our team making it to pass on to other folks. So that's a great point. I know there are other softwares out there. We personally use Loom. I hear you do too. For those who are watching, you don't know what that is. You can just record your screen. The one I did yesterday was I'm now getting out of even employee reviews, and my managers are doing that. But I've never recorded and sat down. Here's exactly what I want to ask and talk about and do. So I recorded myself, sent it to a manager, and say, this is how I would do it. These are the questions I would ask. Make sure you're doing this and this, and you can share your screen and show folks, and then send it to them. It's a great platform to use. Again, Chris, I could talk to you for a long time. I feel like we've got a lot in common, and our lives are similar and running in different areas. And again, I think those who are watching are going to feel the same. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you sharing a little insight as to how you've done what you've done. How can people find you, your law firm, those who might want to connect with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so we're on all the social media platforms that are out there as Wise & Associates on all of them. So we're pretty, active on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, probably more so LinkedIn these days, and Instagram for some of the projects that we're coming out with. But yeah, that's probably the best way to find us.
Cool. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your time. For those of you who are watching, if you are a law firm and you're looking to grow, this is what we do here at Green Cardigan. We help lawyers grow and scale their law firm through all forms of digital marketing services. We would love to help you. And until next time, thank you for watching.
Thank you for having me.